And welcome back to Lantern Corps video. Today on Tuesday, the 26th, if I'm not mistaken. So this one came to us from Marcus Kane, not Marcus Kane, oh no, Morehouse, no? I think it's Marcus, sorry, I think it's Marcus Kane. Anyway, Darth Maul, what Lantern Corps do you belong in? Now, the logical answer would be to just say red, because both Sith are motivated by anger, greed, all that kind of stuff, their passions. And red would fit into that category. But there are a couple other colors we have to really consider when we're talking about Darth Maul. Let's get a couple right out of the way. He is not a white lantern, and he's not a blue lantern, and he's not a sapphire lantern either. There's really no love in this guy's heart. That's not to say that Sith can't actually love. In fact, love is one of the love and attachment is one of the reasons you can go over to the dark side. But Darth Maul has never displayed that, as far as we know, except for maybe having like a familial love, loyalty for his brother, who is dead, as is Darth Maul. But obviously, life isn't going to work, and life is not going to work. And think words here. Hope is not going to work. I will also say that he's probably near compassionless, but we've seen him be able to work with other people for a goal. So I think there is at least a little bit of compassion in there. Although compassion, you can make an argument, might be on the list. I should note that because he's dead and he's killed a lot of people, he should have a Black Lantern, at least just as a default Lantern Corps. So really, because he's dead as a character, he'd have to be a Black Lantern by that logic. But let's take that out of the equation. Yes, he's a Black Lantern. But what else do we have here? Well, right out the gate, let's get the obvious one out of the way. Yeah, he could definitely be a Rage Lantern. I mean, the man is full of so much anger. Kenobi! Like, seriously, the dude is just rage incarnate during a lot of the series. So it makes a lot of sense that Rage, when he was alive, would have been a good option. Another good option, though, probably would have been Fear. I mean, when he showed up, the dude was intimidating. You know, they get the Duel of the Fates. You know, seriously. Still not a great movie, but still one of the best Star Wars scenes. Oh, so good. Duel of the Fates is still so good. I digress. But yeah, Fear. And I mean, yeah, he died, but he came back, and he was still someone that they feared. The Jedi were scared to some degree of Maul. I mean, Sidious was not afraid of Maul, but he did consider him, as he said, "You're no longer an apprentice, you're a competitor." Like, yeah, and he was actually able to, at least in the Clone Wars, fight him along with Savage for a little bit, on par with Sidious. Granted, Sidious probably wasn't going all out, but he was certainly not going easy on Maul either. And Maul was able to actually hold his own for a little bit, definitely. So, yeah, I think Fear definitely could have been a Lantern Corps for him. Will was an odd one. He certainly had the willpower to keep going on and overcome great fear. But I don't know. I don't know if Will really works. I mean, he definitely had the willpower. I'm not arguing that. So, I mean, it's kind of like with Compassion, where, yeah, I think he probably could have, but there's some reasons why he might not have been either, because he still felt fear too. Like he was still scared of Sidious ultimately. But that said, there is one other one we got to talk about, and that is Avarice, Greed, Orange. This one, I think, it would be a fly under the radar Lantern ring for him. And I mean that in the sense that I don't think we would have initially thought of it as a Lantern Corps he could have belonged to. But Sith are never satisfied. Like, Maul was not satisfied. He continually searched for Kenobi, and after he killed Kenobi, he was going to raise Ezra as his new apprentice. He was even when he basically technically took over Mandalore for a little bit, he still wasn't satisfied. He had more plans. Like, the idea of a Sith is that you crave power, and that you should never be set, and that you continue to crave power until your apprentice essentially snuffs you out and then claims the power. And that's why Sidious, honestly, is probably the textbook definition of an Orange Lantern. Like, he was never, he had his power, and he was still always seeking more. And while Maul is not as greedy as, say, a lot of other Sith that we've seen, he still would have qualified under that banner of greed. So I think avarice has to be into consideration. So, I mean, obviously the correct answer is black because he's dead. But out of the other three, what is it? Is it going to be avarice? Is it going to be fear? Or is it going to be rage? I will say fear is the one I think actually is the least likely when you talk about his entire lifespan, because while he was always feared, he still had to go up against the Jedi quite often who no longer feared him after a while. Not longer feared him, but didn't care about how feared he was. And they were just as skilled warriors too. So I think while fear certainly works, you kept going up against people who repeatedly over and over again who were less and less afraid of you, but it's not necessarily fear, it's more acknowledging how dangerous something is. And they acknowledged how dangerous he was. So, yeah. I would say, and Sidious wasn't truly afraid of him, but he did have his concerns. So I will say, yeah, fear. Fear is probably the least likely of the three big ones. And I'm not including Will on this because I just don't think Will. But not because he couldn't be Will. I just think the other three are more likely. So that leaves us with rage and greed. And for my money, it's going to be the boring answer, but it's going to be rage. It's clear that's what drove him throughout all of his life. I mean, it was still avarice in him. There's still greed, more obsession for power, all that. But it was clearly rage that was driving him more often than not. And throughout the entirety of his life until he was killed by Kenobi. So, yeah, for my money, it's going to be rage. Rage is the one that fits the best. But I would still say greed might be a good secondary. It was probably a secondary option. Fear, third. I mean, black, obviously, as it stands, would be the one he qualified for now. Black, but, and there's an argument to be made for will and compassion, honestly. So, those are the Lantern Corps for Darth Maul. Let me know in the comments below if you feel differently. If you do, that's cool. Let me know what you think he'd qualify for over rage. But for me, I think rage is kind of the obvious answer. But I'd be willing to hear if someone has a different opinion. Till then, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.